Good afternoon. That's right. It's time for the Stripe Show, minus my friend, Mr. Travis Fulton, who has found himself up in the Northwest Mountains this week. So you get me, you get Read the Line, Keith Stewart all day, every day on a Tuesday. Team Tuesday, welcome to the show. Holy cow, we're heading over across the pond to the Genesis Scottish Open. And I'm pretty excited about this. Ever since the PGA Tour meshed in with the DP World Tour and whatever that means in the future, I'm sure there's lots to talk about this fall, but for the time being, this event has gotten a little bit of a kickstart, and you got to love it. The Renaissance Club or the Renaissance Club or however else you want to say it, doesn't matter to me. Let's just call it TRC. Was started by an American family, the Sephardi family, and we'll get a little bit more into that in a minute. But first, why don't we back up the truck for a minute? Beep, beep, beep. Back it up, baby. And let's talk a little bit Rocket Mortgage. It's been 2 weeks since we've seen you all on a Tuesday. That's right, folks. Get the betting books out. It's time to write up the card. But we've had Ricky at Rocket Mortgage in a playoff. Then we have Sepp Straka going deep and then going even deeper on the 18th hole at the John Deere Classic, TPC Deere Run. The guy's 11 under through 14 holes, and then all of a sudden, he plunks it on the final hole, loses 2 shots, puts everything in jeopardy, but at the end of the day, Brendan Todd, Alex Smalley, they couldn't get it done. They couldn't catch him. Congrats to Sepp Straka and all the Diet Coke drinkers out there. If you don't know, big joke on tour, whenever it's a Pepsi week, Sepp Straka brings his own Diet Coke. He's a huge Diet Coke fan, obviously a Georgia Bulldog. But I want to go back just a week before that and talk a little bit about Ricky Fowler. On this show, we were going back and forth between Hideki and Ricky and who was going to get it done. Well, it was great to see after 4 years, 4 months, and 29 days that our man Ricky Fowler. Now, I say that in general terms because I think it's great that Ricky Fowler won for the game of golf. You all know I'm a PGA professional. So growing the game, it's exciting when somebody that like a Jordan or a Ricky or a JT or a Rory wins. I'm not trying to be a homer or anything. I'm just saying it's good for golf when those folks win. And the manner with which he did it against Adam Hadwin, the tackling dummy from the Canadian Open. I'll never forget that video. And, you know, Colin Morikawa, another guy searching 2 years for a win. His last win was at the Open Championship, which is next week. We'll get to that. Travis will be back. But for the time being, you're stuck with me and the Genesis Scottish Open preview. Ricky gets it done in a playoff. And, you know, I kind of wonder, and I'm sure you do too, and I wish Travis was here because he'd probably have a good comment or two on this. But when Ricky makes that putt, after all he's been through as a golfer, I know as a coach and a player myself, that I think that was one of the most pure reactions of all time to winning a golf tournament. I mean, we know Tiger at Torrey Pines with the, you know, expect anything different and the, you know, we've seen it so many times, you know, fists in the air, Ernie Els. There's been so many tremendous reactions to winning a golf tournament. But I don't know that I've ever sat there and watched a guy sink a putt to walk off and just stand there and look up to the sky and contemplate, you know, the mystery of the game and all the depths that he had been through for the last couple of years. It was a pretty cool sight to see, I think. And one of the reasons why I love to cover golf betting and golf in general, because I think Travis is the same way. After you get done breaking down the swings and we're looking at the betting board and we're going through the golf courses and the agronomy and the architecture and all this, these stories are about people. And the last 2 weeks have been 2 really great stories. And although maybe a lot of us at 50-1 didn't have Sepp Straka, congrats to him. Guy comes out on a Sunday playing in a featured group with one of the young guns out there, Cameron Young, who everybody would have thought would have been the guy to shoot 0 on that golf course on a Sunday. And Sepp steps it up and he gets it done. And in true John Deere dramatic fashion, to tie a bow on all of this recap, he throws it in the water on the last hole. He gives us some drama to the bitter end. And it's been 2 great weeks, and I'm glad to be back on the airwaves with you on a Tuesday. So as you're enjoying some lunch, let's go right over across the pond. Set your clocks a little forward now. We're not at Pebble Beach with the ladies, the Women's Open. You know, speaking of which, if you watched any of that this weekend, you had to be totally engaged with the way that the USGA set up that golf course, the marine layer, the temperature, the way in which those women contested that golf course. And the scores, Allisen Corpus, congrats to her. First win on the LPGA Tour is a major. It happens again at the U.S. Open. We get one of these new winners. I mean, it was a fantastic setting. So good to see the women there at Pebble Beach. And, you know, it sounds logical that the better the venue, the better the tournament, but it's true. You know, at the end of the day, this shift to the Renaissance Club over there in Scotland, in North Berwick, 4 years ago, really kind of positioned this tournament alongside that partnership that they created with the PGA Tour. And it's totally given this thing a facelift. And if you look at not just the list of winners, but what's taking place, and now the second year in a row, the field that's over there. I mean, look at this list. We've got 4 of the top 5 in the official World Golf Rankings, 8 of the top 10, 30 of the top 50. This is not a designated event. The only big name we're missing from the big 3 is Jon Rahm. He's taking the week off before they go to the Open Championship. But Scotty, Rory, JT, well, maybe not JT anymore, Jordan. You know, we've got names from over there, Hatton, Lowry, Fleetwood. It's going to be a great week of golf again, and fire up the troops. I mean, the John Deere didn't disappoint, but the PGA Tour's summer schedule carries on to what? Kentucky and the Barbasol. There'll probably be another birdie fest there. That'll be what, the 4th week in a row. You need 25 birdies in order to win. But the reality of it all is that we're heading over across the pond for a couple of weeks, and we're going to break down a little link-style golf. And you know what? As a PGA pro, I'm going to throw you a quick tidbit because people are going to use that term link-style golf for the next 2 weeks. And you're going to be at cocktail parties. You're going to be out on the golf course. You're going to be in the grill room. You're going to be with friends. You're going to be at barbecues, fire pits, whatever you're doing. And somebody's going to throw that out. Man or woman's going to throw out that term. But you wonder, do they really know what it means? The links terminology when it comes to describing golf courses and why we don't have links golf courses over here in the U.S. is because it has to deal with the soil, right? So basically what happens is you have the beach, you have the ocean, you have the beach, then you have this dead land that they couldn't grow anything on, and then you have the good land. So the land in between is where the shepherds used to take the sheep and they would graze. I know I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, but just run with me for a second because you'll be able to tell this story to everybody for the next 2 weeks and it'll make you seem like the smartest person in the room. So you can thank me later. But here we go. So that land, which they couldn't grow on, but they also couldn't do very much else with, wasn't as valuable as the agricultural land, which was more inland. So that dead land linked the beach to the agricultural land. Hence, right, folks, your links land or the land where they built the golf courses. And if you look like this week, that land sits right there just past the beach, but before you get to town there in North Berwick. Okay, that's what it means to be a link-style golf course. They are usually very firm and fast. I think this week might be a little bit different, but if you remember last year's Genesis Scottish Open, we saw it. It was super firm and fast when Xander pulled off the victory there and, you know, kind of set himself up for what was a huge summer for him. You know, he had won the team event. He had won the JP McManus Pro-Am that week of. He had won the Genesis Scottish Open. He was on a tear. And it was firm and fast because that land there tends to be very sand-based. And at the end of the day, that's why we call it links land. It's not because they're links in a chain. It's because of the dirt in the ground. There you go. Now, all right. Sorry. So I digress. Let's head into the Genesis Scottish Open. And for the second year in a partnership with the PGA Tour. And what are we looking at here at the Renaissance Club? Well, what we're looking at is a very interesting invention. So the Savardi family is an American-based family that built this resort over there in North Berwick. And they created, with the help of Tom Doak, who's the course designer, a very, very interesting link-style masterpiece golf course. Beautiful bunkering, everything that you want to see in a link-style golf course. Fat, flat, strike that, reverse it. Flat, rolling fairways. They give you some bumps and some all sorts of interesting twists and turns. If you really want to watch great golf, you love it when it's played on the ground. And one of the reasons I love going across the pond and seeing all of this competition in Scotland, or watching a little DP World Tour action on a weekend morning or something like that, is because at the end of the day, when the ball hits the ground, it's when almost all of the coolest things happen in all of golf. And we're going to see that for the next 2 weeks. So we got to pay attention to those scramblers and those short game guys, and on approach and off the tee, who can be accurate, who can hit the right side of the fairway, because the wrong side of the fairway rolls into one of those coffin-style bunkers with the sod faces. I mean, at the end of the day, this week, the next 2 weeks, is all about tee to green play and handling bad breaks. So we rewind just a year. We go back last year, the first time the partnership with the PGA Tour. Xander pulls it home. Tom Kim's up there. Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Cantlay, a whole mess of guys in the top 10. Jordan Spieth, Alex Smalley, guy who played good last week at John Deere. All sorts of really great names in this championship, which led up to St. Andrews, which was the really big buildup. But at the end of the day, not that this stole the show, but the Renaissance Club and what the Savardi family have built over there, even though it's new, pays great homage to all of the fantastic golf course, link-style golf courses over there, and we're going to get a true link-style championship. Now, that's interesting, because if you go back and you look at the last couple of winners, this is the 5th edition at the Renaissance Club, and all of the former winners, Aaron Rai, Bern Wiesberger, Xander, I mean, these players aren't your traditional link-style players. Now, granted, some of them, Minwoo Lee, not a traditional link-style player. He's a bomber, right? So when you start to look at the common thread of skills amongst all of these players, who are we really talking about? Well, I think it has more to do with a modern way of playing the golf game. Certainly power plays a huge role, right? When you start to look at this golf course, the first thing you see, you're going to get, your write-ups there online. It's going to say par 70, 7,237 yards. Look at the scorecard, everybody. Forget the strokes gain analysis for like 2 minutes, all right? And look at the scorecard. Par 70, all right? What's going on there? What makes up the par? All right? Well, we have 5 par 3s, 3 par 5s, right? And then we've got 10 more holes left, which are par 4s. 5 par 3s, and we're getting to almost 7,300 yards for a par 70. So where is all that length hidden? That makes it long. All of those par 3s don't make it short. It means that to still get to 7,300 yards, I mean, that should be more around 7,000 with 5 par 3s, but it's not. The average par 5, there's 3 of them, is 590 yards long. Throw on top of it, I think we've got 7 par 4s over 440 yards. Length and power are going to be a prerequisite. Are going to be a prerequisite. Maybe a drink. I was rolling along there without Travis. Travis, you there? No, just kidding. Yeah. I miss him, By this point, he would have given me like 3 rhetorical questions that would have really made me contemplate my whole background in golf, which is always fun on a Tuesday. So if this is the first time you're tuning in on a Tuesday, make sure you check us out next week as we do a preview for the 151st Open Championship. The two of us go back and forth. The rapport is it's legendary. Anyway, getting back to this, the Renaissance Club, 80 bunkers all over the course of this place. You got to love it. It's completely links land golf, but it seems like target players and bombers seem to do very well here. So the obvious thing is we're looking at strokes gained off the tee. We're looking at strokes gained approach because we want good ball strikers, the ones that can handle bad breaks, the ones that can keep it really on the right side of the fairway, land it in the right section just off the green to bounce it on, to use the humps and bumps of this place. And strokes gained putting. Huge greens. There's no doubt historical data shows us that those that putt well, especially upon approach, huge greens goes back to proximity to the hole, and when you don't have it, you've got to be able to putt from 70 feet and get that thing inside a 4-foot circle and then make those putts. And over time, that's what leads to the leaderboard of contenders at the Renaissance Club. So those obvious skill sets that you can go to in as much in depth as you want, but we're going to breeze through that and just really touch upon what are more of the unknown skill sets this week. I kind of mentioned the fact that there's 5 par 3s this week. That adds up to, over the course of 72 holes, about 30% of the holes that you're going to play. Those iron players, those approach guys, but specifically par 3 scorers, have a way to separate themselves. I say this all the time. Picking winners is like splitting hairs. How do you differentiate yourself from the field? Well, it seems as if you're a great par 3 scorer and you can play in the wind, well, then you know what? I think that it's going to work in your favor. Now, speaking of the wind, I guess it implies when we go over there, we got to talk about the weather. AM, PM waves, all these different, obstacles that we face in making decisions and choosing who we're going to take from the betting board and build out our card. Well, the first thing we got to talk about, it's been wet over there. Last year, it was super firm and fast. Length is going to be even more important this year because it has been raining a ton there. Cats and dogs are in attendance, and it's been pouring, and it's going to rain more this week. It's not going to be beautiful over there. They're sitting on the Firth of Forth. And as many times as I'm going to say that over the course of the next 2 weeks, right, I'll try not to screw it up. Say that 3 times fast. Firth of Forth, Firth of Forth, Firth of Forth. Firth of Forth, right, which is that nice big open sea land that you also see St. Andrews sits on. Well, this being a coastal on the links land golf course, very open to the wind. So the idea that the temperatures are sitting basically in the 60s during the middle of the day, but blowing off the water, up to 20 miles an hour by Sunday and 30 mile an hour gusts. The finish on Sunday is going to be pretty fun. It would if Sepp Straka can roll over there and get 11 under through 14 holes on this Sunday, man, you got to shake that guy's hand. Give him Diet Coke for life. Getting back to, though, the talent that it takes, hitting greens in regulation, it's below the tour average. It's below any average because not only because of where the golf course sits, and we're even talking under wet conditions, but with the wind and the elements as well. So you're going to get a lot of guys that are going to need to be able to scramble and putt well. We already mentioned approach putting, but making all those putts, or as many as you can, inside 8 to 10 feet, when the wind is blowing, when you don't feel stable, little wider stance, all of those things that we're going to see. Does that favor somebody like a Tommy Fleetwood who's used to playing in those conditions? Well, Tommy Fleetwood's been over here for a long time, so I'm not quite sure he's the guy. Is it a Robert McIntyre or somebody like that? One of the Hogard twins? We shall see. As we get to the betting board, I've got some thoughts on all of that. But for the purpose of this preview, you want to make sure that you got some guys that can scramble. Patrick Cantlay comes to mind. Great off the tee, but an excellent pitcher and putter of the golf ball. So with all that being said, why don't we jump into the favorites of the betting board, and we'll go through a couple quick questions. Without Travis here, I'll have to play both sides of the coin. And, I came up with a couple comparisons. And as that works out, we will see where my mind lies when it comes to a couple of these people near the top of the betting board as far as things go for the Genesis Scottish Open. So here we go. Right at the top of the board, you've got Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy. So is it Scotty or Rory week? Well, we've already leaned on the fact that ball striking is important, but putting is as well. Does that push Rory ahead of Scotty or Scotty ahead of Rory? I think this is pretty much one of those situations where I might just take more odds. And the fact that Rory's 9-1 and Scotty's at 7-1, I probably won't take either, to be quite honest with everybody. I'd rather look a little bit further down the board, not for more value, but just because both of these guys lack that little edge that we need in order to win. Now, does that mean that Rory could go out and boat race the field in the elements that remind him of his childhood there in Northern Ireland? There's no doubt in my mind, or anyone else's for that matter. That's why they're at the top of the betting board. But for conversation's sake, picking between the two, I would lean towards Rory because of his European heritage and the type of golf that he grew up playing versus stateside Scotty, who, of course, would have played much more target golf. Scotty missed the cut there last year. Rory himself has won several times over in Europe. So maybe he has a little edge, but you know what? I'm not really going to put either one on my betting card. I'm going to look a little bit further down the line. So the next grouping I see, of course, is I could picture Travis saying this on a Tuesday. Keith, is it going to be Patrick or Xander, the two buddies, right? Well, it's very difficult to defend on the PGA Tour. That being said, Obviously, Xander Schauffele is well suited to score and contend on this golf course for the Scottish Open. I still like Cantlay. Top 10 last year, well, top 5 last year. And I like his short game a little bit better, and I like him off the tee a little bit better. So as we run through these A or B type scenarios, if you want to take that guy one of these guys at the top, of the 4 I've just listed, I think Cantlay stands the best chance to bring home the trophy come Sunday. Next twosome, all right? Ricky Fowler and Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler wins for the first time in 4 years. Now, granted, leading up to that, he's been in great recent form. He won the 2015 Scottish Open. It was not played at TRC, but Ricky Fowler is now sitting on the betting board up there with the Victor Hovlands and the Patrick Cantlays and the Xander Schauffele's of the world. He's sitting below Tyrrell Hatton, English player, from 1 win. Do we think that's right? Seems awful hefty at this point. Does Ricky get back-to-back wins? Does Ricky go on a tear like Xander did last summer? He's got the perfect, when you think about it, he flights that ball really well. Great wedge game, great short game, putts the ball really well. All those long putts he made there at Detroit Golf Club makes you think about it. But at plus 2,000, plus 1,800, wherever he sits come Wednesday or when you bet him, is Ricky the guy out of all of those names, let's say the 6 or 7 favorites at the top of the board, that makes you the most comfortable? He isn't for me, but at the end of the day, hey, it's good for the game of golf when we're talking about Ricky Fowler and guys like him and Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, as much as we are. Congrats again to his team. 4 years is a long time to put up with yourself on a golf course. I mean, I've had some serious hate time on a range, and I'm sure Travis could bring up a bunch too. And, I tell you, it's a difficult game. And I think we all felt for Ricky. I got to go back there. Him standing there just looking up at the sky was one of the best reactions all time. Let's go down a little bit further, and let's play the foursome game that Travis always loves to play. Hatton, Fleetwood, Spieth, Fitzpatrick. Fleetwood and Fitzpatrick. Great history there at TRC. 2 very good picks. Awesome ball strikers off the tee, accurate and long. Great short game. Fleetwood probably has the edge from the sand. Both great putters. Both English, both used to that style of links play. I would favor those 2 over Spieth and Hatton. More based upon recent form and course history. But I'm not so sure yet that I have somebody that I want to bet. Maybe Fleetwood. What's Fleetwood? Fleetwood is gaining. When you look at the body of work that we want to talk about here with Tommy Fleetwood, right? Fleetwood over his last 5 starts is gaining over 7 strokes against just about 7 strokes against the field. He's doing it with the putter. He's doing it with the driver. He's doing it with his iron game. He's doing it with his short game. Tommy Fleetwood near the top of the board, sitting at, where are we looking here? Tommy Fleetwood plus 2,200. Boy, you'd love to see that climb to plus 2,500 and then just snap him up. But he's going to be a popular name this week. He was also another top 5 guy last year at the Renaissance Club. Lost there in a playoff. Speaking of which, there's been a lot of playoffs there. This is the 5th edition. The first 3 times they played it there, they had a playoff. Tremendous. One of those was in October. Aaron Rye won in October, COVID year. Of those 4, I'm going to go Fleetwood. Fleetwood's probably my best bet at the top of the board. That's for sure. I think I'm going to go down that far, read the line wise. And I think I'm going to start my card with Fleetwood. I feel good about that move. That's something I could hear Fulton in my ear just going, feel good about that one. As he went on probably some senseless diatribe for 6 minutes about why Tommy Fleetwood's going to win. My next grouping, and this grouping I kind of like. This is a fun one. We've got Shane Lowry, Max Homa, Wyndham Clark, Justin Rose, JT's hanging on there, Minwoo Lee, past champion there, Bomber. We want some power. We want some course history. Where's Max Homa been? Interesting story there. I don't think he's going to go on some sort of Ricky trip for 4 years or anything like that. But he's got another major championship next week. It would be great to see Max Homa finally jump up and snag a little contention in a major championship. But I guess we'll save that for next week's show. That grouping right there, I'm going with the U.S. Open winner, Wyndham Clark. I've loved him all year. As you all know, back Wells Fargo, we had him. I did not have him, full transparency, at the U.S. Open. But the mental game, which is going to be a huge test this week for everyone that's playing. You're going to get bad breaks. There's going to be bad weather. You could be in a really bad wave. I think somebody like Wyndham Clark with the power and the confidence that he's showing in his golf game right now and the short game, the way he handled all that pressure there at LACC, I like Wyndham Clark in that grouping. And sitting there at 40-1, you love to collect on those 40-1s. And with all those big names at the top, they're still not giving Wyndham Clark his due. Let's give him our due, right? So our prototype player this week, all of a sudden, you see it with a little bit of Fleetwood. I'm leaning a little bit towards Clark. We got another foursome down here. Oh, look, here we go. I would have thrown this twosome back at Travis this week. JT or Ludwig Aberg. Who would you take? I'll tell you, there's no doubt that Ludwig kid's a stud. He's got everyone's attention, all right? He's fantastic. And when you look at the numbers in this field, let me find him here. Ludwig Aberg. All right. Driving distance, we're there. Greens and regulation, we're there. Par 5 scoring, we're there. Boy, greens and regulation, off the tee, so solid. Top 20 in this field, tee to green. What's he got? 5 PGA Tour events under his belt. Big 2 weeks for him. I mean, it's been a couple big weeks, but now we're going against the big boys. This is no longer the summer shootout swing there on the PGA Tour, 3 weeks of birdie fests. Ludwig Aberg played a couple weeks ago with Luke Donald there in Detroit. A lot of Ryder Cup talk there. A lot of Ryder Cup talk between both of them. And if you had to choose between the two right now, for whatever team, whatever captain you were, JT or Ludwig Aberg, well, I think there's no doubt we would choose Ludwig this week at the Scottish or even next week over JT. Does JT bring it back? I don't know. I don't know. Which gets me to, let's see here. Move a little bit further down the board. Ooh, all right. How about this little crew here? We've got Tom Kim right near Alex Smalley. So Tom Kim last year, top 5 in this event, was this was basically the week that kicked him off. This, then the Open Championship, then he goes to win on tour twice at the Wyndham and also in Las Vegas in the fall. The President's Cup run, everything kind of got jump started here at TRC at the Renaissance Club. Tom Kim or Alex Smalley? Alex Smalley on Saturday at the John Deere Classic. His average proximity to the hole was 16 feet. 16 feet to the hole. Stripe show. This is a stripe show. That was a stripe show. There's no doubt about it. Alex Smalley, last year, one of his top 10s, the Renaissance Club. Based upon recent form, could he be the next Wyndham Clark? I mean, he's sitting there at 80-1. Alex Smalley. Tough to get away from him. He was on Travis's show a couple weeks ago before Travis went away to the Northwest. Will Travis ever come back? I don't know. He's probably listening to this right now, and he's thinking to himself, I got to get back there right now. I got to get Keith off that mic. But they sit right around. If we're going Smalley or Kim, I'm going Smalley. But the next grouping, Fox, Meronk, Noren, McIntyre, all these stalwarts of the DP World Tour. Would you take any of those, Keith? Probably not. I would rather go much further down the board, and I'm going to take the Hogard twins. Recent form, and also length off the tee, a variety of different reasons. I like Rasmus and Nikolai much more than I like Ryan Fox, or I like Adrian Meronk, Alex Noren, or Robert McIntyre. Not because McIntyre's a lefty, or because he's from Scotland. My last name's Stewart. Why wouldn't I like a Scottish guy? Wore a kilt to my wedding. But the point being is that I think there's more opportunity for a quick win there with the Hogards and their talent set. rather than that foursome that I just mentioned. Now we can keep going down. This is the point in the show where I know Travis always starts to look down the board. He goes, Kurt Kitayama, runner-up last year. Sahith Theegala. I don't do a very good Travis voice. Seamus Power. Thomas Dietrich. Great course history there. Couple top tens. We're also at 120 to 1. Eric Cole. There's Nikolai sitting down there, 150 to 1. Hogard's got to make a move for the Ryder Cup. Are they guaranteed? Are they both guaranteed to be on the team? I don't know. If one of them is on, they're both on. I mean, you just take both with you. They're twins, right? If one's playing bad, you insert the other one. The Americans will never know. They're all wearing the same uniform. I'm going to stop there. Mainly because you probably heard enough from me already, and there's plenty to chew the fat on for sure. There's no doubt that I will welcome with open arms my partner in crime for Team Tuesday. Next week, Mr. Travis Fulton. I hope he travels safe and he's enjoying the family time here in July out there across to the other coast, up in the woods of the mountains of the Northwest. Who knows if he'll let me just run rampant on the mic again. Jerry Savardi and his family have done a lot of good for golf. And this golf course, Tom Doak, and the masterpiece they've put together should be really entertaining. So if you want to be a better, go check out Read the Line. Keep listening to Tuesdays with Travis and I. And have a great week, everybody. Good luck with your weekend wagers. And as I always say, there's nothing quite like being on a Stripe Show.